next, we will invite our student guests up to the stage. And so would you please welcome Anna Young and Leo Krolchek to the stage. And I'll try to make it brief so that we can open the floor to questions from our invited guests. First, I would just like if you would both do something that I know is perhaps it's not very similar to your characters because you're both very humble, but would you just boast for a moment, if you don't mind, and just list for us a couple highlights that you're particularly proud of in terms of what you've been able to do as an actor? And Leo, can you get us started? What are some of your highlights? And then we'll ask Anna as well.
Sounds good. I wasn't sure if this was on or not. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. I really appreciate being here. Just want to start off by saying I'm kind of retired in the sense of acting, but I still like to do a lot of filmmaking. Going to Point Loma, I came here with the intention of being a nurse, and then I switched to media communication as I was very interested in the career of acting. So I went through a long process of pretty much everything that Francisco just said. I researched all of that and found it out all through YouTube and talking to a bunch of people. And I think that it was a wonderful journey. In the end, it turned out not being the thing for me, and that's what I want to do as a career. But I really enjoyed my experiences and some of the opportunities I got to be a part of. I started out just doing short films with friends and modeling and literally just like wearing people's brand hoodies and snapping some photos on the cliffs. And then from that, I did a board bag commercial, which was pretty cool. And from that, I did a Bang energy drink commercial. So a lot of commercials, and then I started to just make a lot of short films myself where I was pretty much acting in my own films or friends' films because that was what it was for me that I loved. It wasn't like the money or the fame. It was like, I want to see myself in this movie playing this character. So,
thank you for sharing that and the background. How about you, Anna?
Hello, everybody. My name's Annabelle. So for me, my acting career really started in high school, I guess, just doing theater. And then with that, I started doing some background roles, just background extra roles on TV shows, which really opened my eyes up to the world of on-set, on-screen acting rather than theater. And so through my experience at Point Loma, I've been able to do some short films here. And then last year, I got the opportunity to for the first time, be a character in a sitcom, which was really exciting. And with that, I got to join SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild Union. And so for now, what's happening right now, I recently got an agent, and I'm just doing acting classes, auditioning a lot. So
Thank you so much. And Leo, we'll come back to you and then have a similar question. Could you let us know, more specifically, how you got the commercial roles? We heard that you took some headshots at the cliffs, but it's still, for those of us who are interested in this world that you are both in, it seems a bit mysterious, right? Because we've taken pictures at the cliffs, but then we don't find ourselves in commercials. So could you just maybe describe concretely how one of those relationships led to another experience? And similarly, Anna, when we turn to you, would you let us know, how did you find an agent? Similarly, we know there's agents out there, but how do they appear to you in a dream, or what buttons do you have to push? So just a little bit more concrete details, and we'll take some of the mystery out of that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing that really was my biggest takeaway from that whole experience was talking to everybody and telling everyone that I knew that I wanted to act and I wanted to do this. So I literally would just tell all my friends, all my family members, every single person that I met, and pretty much started talking about my life. It was I'm actually wanting to be an actor. And then from those kind of interactions, people were just willing to share their experience or somebody that they know, and connections. I know it sounds cliche, but connections are seriously one of the biggest things to getting an in that industry or anything. So it was I would just talk to everyone, and one guy told me, he's hey man, when I wanted to get started doing modeling, I just DM'd tons of people on Instagram. So I started DMing all these photographers and videographers, and of course 9 out of 10 didn't respond, but one of them did respond. And then a couple weeks later, this guy was hey, we're shooting this commercial, and the guy that we had in mind, he can't make it. And they pretty much just took a chance on me, and that was the shot up there. But that was from that board bag commercial, and I had never done anything, and I did it entirely for free. So I think like obviously you want to get to a point in your acting career where you're not just doing free work, but literally just do jobs for free if you want to get started, because then you have stuff to show for yourself. Then you can build a demo reel. So I did that. From that, I had one thing led to another guy that they worked with. I did some production assistant jobs. They hit me up and they said, hey, we're doing this like a literal energy drink commercial. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I mean, I've no experience in this field, but I'll totally go and do it and just drink energy drinks and hang out in a mansion all day. And I got paid tons of money to be there for 2 days and have a good time, you know? And yeah, just stuff like that. Literally just connecting with as many people as you can and telling everyone what you want to do, because I feel like that's just kind of how the universe works, is like it'll come back around if you're putting it out there, you know? So.
That's inspiring. And just looking around, if you look to your left and right, you have a lot of talent in this room, and we're already networking as a class, and as a program, and as a campus. So that's really helpful for us to hear how that networking worked for you. Anna, would you mind sharing with us the sitcom title, if you're allowed to do that, and some of those concrete steps, similar to how Leo outlined? How did you get an agent, for example?
So the sitcom is called The Connors. It's a spin-off of this 90s sitcom called Roseanne. So that really was my unique experience of getting into the film industry, was getting that role and joining SAG. I did all of that before even getting an agent, which is kind of a weird story. But for finding an agent, kind of like what Leo said, is building those connections are the biggest thing to start the conversation going. And so for me, once I booked that role and was doing that, I was like, okay, well, now I have to have an agent because I won't get anything if I don't. And so for me, I just started researching different acting classes, and I did that on like TikTok, Instagram, because specifically I knew that being down in San Diego, it didn't really seem like there was a lot of acting classes down here. So I wanted to look for Zoom classes, and literally if you Google like Zoom acting class, like you can find a bunch of different ones. And so I tried out a couple different ones, but the thing that you'll quickly find out is that acting classes are pretty expensive. You're definitely spending a pretty penny. But what I did is I was talking to some friends that went up to school in Biola, and one of my friends was like, hey, I take these acting classes. It's this amount of money, which was not as expensive as some were, and there's 4 classes a week, and they're all on Zoom. And so I started doing those, and it's like a session of about 3 months of classes, and then at the end of the session, you do a showcase where they invite industry professionals, and it's, again, still on Zoom. And so with that, that's how I got into contact with a couple different agencies and managers. I had interviews with them, sent over my headshots, my resume, demo reels, or any auditions that I had done. And then with that, I kind of just, heard their feedback of what they want me to do, and quickly I kind of decided who works best, like who we would work best with. And so that's how I got my agent. And so the easiest way to get an agent is by doing acting classes, because majority of them have showcases at the end with industry professionals, which puts you into contact with them, helps you make those connections. So yeah.
Wow, thank you for that fantastic tip. As always, I have more questions, but I want to open it to the floor if anyone has any questions at this time. And then if you want to keep the conversation going as an audience, I'm more than happy to do that. So by a show of hands, do we have any questions from the floor so far? Would you briefly state your name, and we look forward to hearing your question.
My name is Matthew Hamilton, and I have a question for Leo. Since you're trying to get into filmmaking, what type of films are you trying to make?
Yeah, I've been making films now since about sophomore year, and I make a lot of like adventure films. I actually submitted one last year to the Driftwood Film Festival and won a little award for that, so that was cool. But I really like making films that are like, I like to pick a song that I really like, something that speaks to me, and then I put it to usually just a series of visuals and that are not too complex. I don't like to bring in like dialogue and stuff yet. That was one thing I learned from my TV and film class, was like stick to mastering the rice before you master the sushi part of the fish, And it's kind of true. It's like if you want to make quality stuff, like stick to what you can master, and like whether that's a really powerful cinematic shot, good editing. If you try and bring in a bunch of stuff like dialogue, and yeah, it can be good for like an acting reel or something, but if you want to make films that are really just show your skills, like keep it simple. And that's what I do, and I post them on my Instagram, and yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for the question, Matthew. Next question from the floor.
Hello, my name is Anna, and this question is for Anna. How did you get your role on the Connors? And if you feel comfortable sharing, obviously. And then what advice would you have for someone who, or like, did you always know you wanted to be an actress, or said?
So it's a unique little story. So basically, my uncle was on the original show Roseanne, and he passed away 2 weeks before I was born. And so growing up in like a state of mourning, I always knew about this guy who like was an actor, and it was unique being able to Google things about my uncle. And so it wasn't necessarily something that I always wanted to do. I mean, I was a quiet kid, like an awkward kid in middle school starting to do theater. And I mean, the truthful statement is that like I really did feel like at home on a stage. And that's what kind of made me like really want to do it, not necessarily pursue it because I was like 12. But when I was 14, I went to the reboot of the Roseanne show, and that was my first time on a set, and I just went for the live show and telling them that I was in drama class. They're like, oh, you can come on and do background. It was a set that they had a lot of their friends and family come on and do background just to it was just a very good environment. And so being on set for the first time really made me fall in love with it. I was like, this is such a great community. I mean, of course, I was fortunate to be on such a good set. That's not always the case. But that's what kind of made me want to pursue it. And then throughout the years, they would just randomly ask me, like, oh, like, we have, like, teenagers in this scene. Do you want to come be an extra? And, like, it was just more to hang out, if anything. But then last year, they changed the rules where basically anyone on the set had to be union. And I was like, I'm not going to pay that money to join the union if I'm just being like an extra, not in like a diva way, but just, you know, trying to think about my actual career and if that was the smartest choice for me. And what actually happened was they had a featured extra that just had a name and was like referred to as her name, but didn't have any lines. And they were like, this is technically a principal role. Would you want to do that? And I was like, sure, why not? So that's how I got that. And then that experience was incredible. It all kind of goes back to family and a story of my uncle that kind of tragically ended is something that I'm taking and kind of rewriting that for my family. And I think that's super important to me to show them that there is good sides and of this industry and that that's where I'm aiming. So yeah, that's kind of my little story.
Thank you for that. Who would like to ask the next question?
Hi, my name is Aubrey, and this question is for both of you guys. Do you have any advice for sticking to acting or filmmaking? And then how do you deal with rejection or roadblocks you face along the way?
It was for how to stick with acting. So I feel like that, like in the past year, has been definitely a harder thing because going through college, I was like, oh, I'm going to go into it. I'm going to be media comm, but I'm going to pursue acting. And then I did nothing my first 2 years of college, except for doing like a singular short film. And I think what always kept me going back was I just personally could not imagine myself doing anything else. And I heard someone give some kind of inspirational talk being like, if you can imagine yourself doing anything, do that. Don't do acting because, you know, you're putting in so much time, so much money for a lifetime of rejection, basically. But yeah, so I mean, I gave it a shot at different like internships and stuff. But at the end of the day, I was like, I just can only see myself acting. And so that's what made me stick with it. And then for dealing with rejection, I think you just have to be sure of yourself, be sure of the decisions that casting directors or filmmakers are making. That, I talked to one casting director one time, and they were just like, when someone walks in a room, they emulate this character that we're trying to cast. And so when I'm getting rejected, I'm not like, oh, it's like I was bad or I was this, and maybe I was, but I'll keep telling myself that, maybe I just didn't have that exact thing that they were looking for, and you want to make sure that they're making the best that they can, because you don't want to get into a role that you're not well suited for. And yeah, I just think that you have to be sure of yourself, know who you are, and also put time and effort into other things in your life to keep that light going and not to just focus it all on this like one acceptance.
My answer to that question is a little different. I didn't stick with acting. I kind of transitioned into filmmaking. I was in the process of meeting with an agent and formulating like my skills videos and trying to take the next step pretty much. And I kind of had a medical emergency. I broke my arm really bad, and I think it turned like my path. I didn't really want to continue to pursue that path. The thing that stayed present and something that I did want to continue to pursue was the filmmaking, as that's just always been something that I've done ever since I was a young kid, my whole life, just making videos with my friends, making videos around the house. So that has been something that has been not difficult for me to stick with, because the thing that takes the fun out of it for me is, I think, would be like when I do it commercially. Like if I was making, and that's just me, like I actually don't want to pursue filmmaking as my career. It's just a hobby of mine that I love to share my art. And that's what keeps it fun for me, is that I make what I want to make, and in my own, like, maybe that sounds selfish, but it's like I purely make the art that I want to see. So it's like I wouldn't want to be a filmmaker for a client, honestly. I wouldn't. So that's why it's fun for me. That's why I still work on films. I'm making one right now with my buddy. We just, literally right before this, I'm making like a motorcycle film. So we were riding around my bike, and I'm holding onto the back of the bike. We ride to a different spot, get off. I'm shooting my buddy doing wheelies, going by, hop back on. Like, that's fun for me, you know what I'm saying? It's like when there's like something that I enjoy in it, and it becomes that kind of art, it keeps me wanting to stick with it. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you for the question, Aubrey. One more question from the floor, and then I'll have a closing question for us.
Hi, I'm Julia. My question is for Leo. Do you have a favorite piece of equipment or like camera that you specifically use, or like editing software? Like, what's your advice on equipment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I bought a Sony a7 IV cinema camera after taking Intro to TV and Film, and it was the best choice I ever made. I mean, it was an expensive setup. I bought a 24 to 70 millimeter Sigma Sony lens, and that allowed me to get like a variety of shots when I was making films, maybe limited in some like the longer distance shots, but a good 24 to 70 millimeter lens is kind of a game changer. Like, not a fixed lens. It allows you to just kind of be on the fly, like, okay, I'm gonna zoom in more in this shot. I'm actually looking into getting like a 200 to 600 just for some variety, but they're like $2,000. But a nice camera like that, a good cinema camera, good lens, a tripod. I was shooting like the film I submitted last year to the film festival, I made entirely on my own, acted, directed, shot, everything, edited. And a tripod was the biggest game changer. I'd run around with a tripod, put it here, run over there, get in the shot, do my thing, run back, stop it. Even if you have a team of people. And then editing software, I do a lot of color grading in DaVinci Resolve. It's free, it's pretty great. And then I actually sometimes just use CapCut to pull the final thing together, because, I don't know, it's simple and it's free, so, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to move to our next question. I think everyone at this point has been inspired, and we can all see that we can do this. And we also know who we can reach out to specifically. So definitely stick around, get emails. Anna and Leo are fantastic. If you haven't met them before, they're more than happy to help you out. Last question for you. So what is the difference, a kind of compare and contrast? your intro to TV and film class. So this is a question maybe for Nathan and I. What's similar to being in that class and being in front of the camera, and what's similar and different between being on an actual set or an actual commercial? Is 2043 helping you get to that point, or is it like that's like the academic world and the real world's totally different? Give us a little insight, because we know that intro experience, but we're curious how it correlates with quote-unquote reality. So here we go.
I feel like for me, when I was on set last year, having been in film classes helped me tremendously, because
I didn't ask for that answer. This is a real answer, so thank you.
no, but I did a lot of reflection like going into it, and I was like, one thing that my dad would always tell me when I was going onto a set was like, just sit there and learn from anyone that you can. And I feel like already being in that student mindset really helped me do that. But in a film class, you learn about every role that these people do. You see all those moving parts. You see the choreography that they're basically doing with cameras and stuff. And I feel like having been in a class that you learn the specific roles, you see the importance that each person plays, and you're not just kind of being there like, oh yeah, I'm like an actor, and like, what about it? Like, I can sit there and be like, oh, this person is doing that, this person is doing that, and that's how this all comes to play. And so I feel like it's definitely a privilege, like having been in a film class and then being on a film set. Although, I mean, it's not like people don't do that. But yeah, I feel like you just grow a deeper appreciation for everyone on set and everything that they do.
That's a great answer, Anna. I think that the class definitely prepared me for the several commercials that I did. It was totally like being a part of like making a short film in Intro to TV and film class. There was a lot of times where I wanted to like step in and direct, and Nicole on our team was great at that. But I was like always wanted to be like, okay, like what if we did it like this too, you know? And but I think that like once I got to the like commercials and stuff too, I felt like I wanted to do the same thing, and there was times where I was like trying to throw in my 2 cents like these professionals, you know? And but it actually helped, like having that, like being able to make the film while also acting in it. When we were in the Intro to TV and film class, it helped when I was on set, because I knew more what the DP or the director wanted. Like I could kind of see like, okay, they want me to do this, so like let me try this, and when I'm in the shot, and see if they like it. And there was a lot of times where they'd be like, okay, let's not do that again. But then there was times where it'd be like, that was great, like yeah, we're gonna rock with that. So it definitely helped, and it was a wonderful class.
All right, I had to take a picture there at the end too. So hey, fantastic. Let's give it up for our student guest today.